so we got a border collie, and it was our first ever dog, let alone working dog. And yeah, the rest.
And they need to have a.
They need to have a purpose.
Yeah.
They need to have a job. So at first he drove us crazy. So, but you know, and we're thinking, oh, if we just throw this toy 2,500 times, he'll just wear out. He'll be tired. And no, that just channels the neuroticness, because it was like, no, I'll do it 2,500 more times if you'd like.
As Canadians, we're used to arenas like this being filled with hockey pucks and skaters. But sometimes these arenas and other sports facilities are filled with ramps and jumps and obstacles and four-legged competitors. That's today on NSK9.
Well, we did obedience class because I wanted him to be a good listening dog. And then the obedience instructor said, you should really try to do agility with him. Like, he's got a good mind. And so we just did it like recreationally. So we did shows, demos to music and nothing, no formal training. And then I just decided to take some classes and take it from there.
And now you not only do that, but you compete internationally.
Yeah.
You have your own equipment.
Yep.
You have a space, actually, in this facility here
We're
in
really
Fellerton.
lucky to have that, yeah.
Yeah, so tell me how that all happened.
So I guess I was going to go audit a seminar, right? So you just sit and listen, you're not participating. But I took my dog on a whim, whatever. And then there was a competitor that had to pull, unfortunately. And so someone said, well, you're here, come play. And the instructor's name was Kathy Keats, actually, who's won Worlds. Anyway, so then I'm like, oh my God, I felt like a little fish in a big pond. And then we had a couple of seminars, and after like the second or third seminar, she's like, you know what, you should really try for a world team. And I'm like, oh, it's such an honor thanks for that. Like, that's great, and I didn't really take her seriously. I kind of laughed it off, and then a good friend of mine, he applied and made a world team, and then that kind of motivated me. So I was like, well, he can do it. I'll give it a go. So and then it worked out. So and that was just with my oldest dog. He's 12, so now he's retired. But yeah, seen the world, and it's really humbling because that never was the plan, and everybody's been uber supportive, but I just kind of go, I have no idea how I got to it.
Because now, like, I find when I asked people, so who should I talk to about agility? There were a couple names that came up, and yours was one of them, she goes everywhere.
Yeah, so we've been to Hungary, England, Italy, Spain. Well, that was so I thought it was one of, right? Like, oh, thanks, so fluke that he's retired, right? He's getting older. And then my other dog was like, wait, you've trained me too. And that's my dog, my world team dog right now, Caper. So that was, first one was Bo, second one's Caper. And so he's like, wait, I have potential, which he's a completely different dog. And so then, so we've been to several, we're off to Belgium in May.
Sarah went from local events to international competition in the growing dog sport of agility. Much like Sarah, Adina McRae is one of those names which is top of everyone's mind when it comes to agility sports in Nova Scotia. Adina's competed internationally, but her focus is now on training.
What do I have?
Different breeds, different mixes. We've got purebreds, we've got rescues. I was tallying the numbers today, and we're up to 15 dogs that we have trained to a competition level between my wife and I.
Yeah, and those are just your dogs.
Those are just my dogs. I've been teaching agility for almost as long as I've been competing, and I wouldn't know where to start with the numbers on how many people I've taught. And I do emphasize that I teach the people because they have to train their dogs. I train the people to understand how to play the sport, how to train their dogs to do it, and it's their job to train the dogs. My first dog was a rescue dog. Got him from the Bidewell shelter, and he had so much energy, he needed about 3 hours of exercise a day. And so I actually got into flyball training first, just to try and burn some of that energy. And he wasn't really good at passing the other dogs in the lanes. He was a little unpredictable in that regard. So my coach at the time suggested agility because it would just be him in the ring and no other dogs. So ever since then, I've been hooked. I started competing with him the weekend that Hurricane Juan hit. Oh, wow. Yeah, and it was great because after a weekend of doing agility, he was exhausted and didn't pay any attention to the hurricane whatsoever.
Break.
So it looks to me like a giant playground.
It is a giant playground.
But there's more to it than that, right?
There's more. There's, every organization has rules about how the dogs have to perform the equipment. So when you're training, you have to be aware of those rules and make sure that your dog is learning the equipment in such a way that they won't be faulted when they perform it. But really, it is a playground. They're out there. I'm sure if I was a young dog, I'd love to be running up and down an A-frame and jumping over jumps and running as fast as I can. Why not? It's a good time.
For someone that doesn't know a lot about agility sport, how would you describe the sport to them?
Okay, well, it's so funny because I've been asked that a lot, and I kind of have to tell people, it's like, well, everybody kind of sees the horse racing, like the horse jumping on TV. So I'm like, well, it's kind of like horse jumping. And then they kind of go, right, I've seen that, because it's not agility isn't televised a lot. There's a sequence of obstacles, except I'm not riding on the back of my dog. I kind of say it jokingly, I flail my arms around and my dog hopefully does the sequence that they're supposed to.
There's a lot of visualization in the sport of agility. Every competition offers a new challenge.
I think a lot of people think, well, do you know what you're doing before you come in? I'm like, no, it could be, you show up, your course maps are set, and you read them and go, oh, okay, that's interesting, right? So it's not something you can train a week ahead because every sequence is different.
And that's why everybody's doing that walk around, right?
Yeah, so it's so funny because I had some family come in and going, what is going on? Because, there's could be up to 50, 75 people in the ring waving their arms around with their invisible dogs, but you want to have
You're
at least,
visualizing it, I guess.
Absolutely, there's a big visualization for the human anyway.
At its core, this isn't a sport about instinct,
there
scent trials
exactly.
or things like that.
There's, sometimes instinct even gets in the way. So scent trials are great. The dogs are using one of their greatest instincts, which is to smell, using their noses. Sometimes that gets in the way in the agility field. I've lost a dog to a smell before in the middle of a run. It's a challenge. Just like herding, a natural instinct for many of the dogs that I just mentioned, if you have a dog that's really high on the herding instinct scale, they might have a hard time not herding the equipment.
In general, dogs are quite smart and I feel do show a level of intelligence, but I also think that genetics, as well as what the dog was initially created for, plays a large role in how adaptable a dog is to learn a particular command or to do a job. Border Collies and German Shepherds, for instance, are known to be quite smart. They're highly motivated, they follow and learn commands quickly, as well as they really do appear to love having a job, and that has been reflected historically. Small toy breeds, on the other hand, the majority of those were created to be lap dogs, and that's how they've stayed today.
I have gone to the Netherlands once with my older dog. She was quite young at the time. She had a great time. I'm just not that keen on travel personally. I miss all my other dogs. But yeah, locally we've had some great talent travel internationally, compete, and do really well internationally. So there are 3 or 4 national teams now. Again, there's kind of different organizations that you can play under, and that will determine which national team you want to join. There's always tryouts involved. Very challenging to get on the national teams because you're
It's like the Olympics.
it's kind of like the Olympics for dogs, and you're competing against really awesome handlers and dogs from across Canada. It's getting to be a pretty big pool of teams out there, and it is challenging to get on those national teams for sure.
Whether you have the dream of competing in exotic places or just heading to the local course for fun with your dog, if you want to get into agility, there's one essential requirement.
Good girl.
Do some obedience first. So, if your dog's not going to listen to you, then, and I always, I've taught classes before and asked that, well, have you done like a good foundation in obedience, like a sit, a stay, all those things, and then you can do the fancy obstacles and stuff like that.
So I get a lot of phone calls. Oh, my dog runs through the woods and jumps over logs, and he'd be great at agility. I have no doubt that your dog is physically capable of the sport. However, mentally, they need to be able to listen to you in very distracting environments and do what you're asking. Like I said, there's tenths of seconds when these decisions are being made by your dog about where they should go next and what they should do with the equipment. So a really strong obedience foundation is super important. After that, getting the dogs aware of how to use their body, also really important. So getting some hind end awareness, because most dogs are really aware of their fronts and not so much their backs. You've got to teach them what to do with those back legs and paws.
As a kid, I always had a border collie. So then I went looking for breeders, and one of the requirements was you had to have a game, something you wanted to do with your dog as a border collie, because they're crazy. So I decided, I looked through the different ones. I don't have sheep, so I can't really do herding, and I didn't know what any other dog sports really were, so I found out about agility, and there's a place locally that did it for training, and it was actually Sarah that did the training then, so that's how I got into agility.
So border collies are a challenging dog at the best of times.
Border collies are a very high energy dog, so you have to know how to focus that energy. So they're not challenging to train, they love to learn.
With some training behind you, there are basically 2 types of agility courses you and your dog will find yourselves on.
There's kind of a game stream, and then there's your standard stream. And the standard courses have all of the equipment, so anything that you can imagine, your dog walk, your A-frame, your weaves, your jumps, your tunnels, the different types of jumps as well, are all included on a standard course. You have to follow the numbers that the judge has laid out. It's the judge's decision where you go on the course. It's your decision how you handle it with your dog. With the games, other than a jumpers course, which is just jumps and tunnels, and again, the judge has decided where you're going to go on that course, you have a little more flexibility. It's usually a points system where you have to earn a certain number of points to get what's called a qualifying score, and your qualifying score is what will eventually end up leading you to titles.
Gamblers there's a whole pile of obstacles in the ring. In AAC, the way it works, because that's what this is, there's a line, and so you have to get your dog to do a challenge based on distance, and you get double the points. So for ours, there's a 4-point jump, which is there's a special obstacle that we call it for 4 points, and then there were 2 tunnels, and so if we had have done that at distance, we would have gotten 16 points. We didn't, but that's all right. So you have 40 seconds to do whatever you want in the ring in terms of points. So you get as many points as you can, and then a buzzer goes, and you have so many seconds to get the closing.
Gamblers is what was going on over there when Adina was yelling out the
Points.
numbers, right?
Yeah.
And that's one that didn't go so well.
Yeah, that was the one that my little baby dog, he's very baby dog, he's not 2 yet, so I'm
And it
just
doesn't
doing
always go well, right?
No, and I didn't at one point think that he was gonna run, so to take him here and have him running and see that he'll actually work for me a little bit, that's the reason why he left that course, is because one of Sarah's dogs he loves her.
Ellen saw it.
He absolutely loves her, and he knew she was right after the ring, so that was way more rewarding for him than running the game.
Here in Stellarton, everyone from weekend warriors to national team competitors have come out to have fun and see what their dogs can do.
this would be considered like a local competition, right? So you're running for qualifying, so hopefully you're running clean, or depending on what your criteria is. Sometimes I take the opportunity to use this as a training opportunity. Bigger entry, local competitors. I mean, and this is where I started. So I remember coming here and being like, oh my God, it's a local trial. Like I'm actually walking into the ring, and am I gonna get a pretty ribbon? Am I not? And then, so now compared to the Worlds, it was like, oh my God, like I'm on the world stage, and there's live streaming and watching like amazing competitors.
People take it really seriously.
Well, and people I've idolized where I've gone, you know, on these that have medaled or at Worlds, and including some of my team members like in Canada, where I've gone, wow, I'm in the same ring as these guys, right? Like, and watching them podium and yeah, it's just crazy.
You're taking the sport pretty seriously if you're trying to get on a national team. But the majority of competitors, they might be referred to as weekend warriors. They want to go out, they want to have a good time with their dog, and they want to have a good time with their friends, because agility is really a great community. And I hear this across every province. It's a fantastic community of friends. And so you're getting to go hang out with your friends for the weekend and cheering each other on. That's what most people are doing the sport for. And, you know, the community, it's like a family. We're a close-knit group. It can be a little daunting sometimes when you're first competing to get into that family, but once you're in, you'll feel the love, and it's a very supportive group of people.
Some people here, like, they're very serious about it.
Yeah, the one that's running right now, she's very intense. She's competing internationally. Sarah's competing internationally. There's a few of them that do that. I don't. I have no aspirations to go international with my dogs. I just want to go have fun with them.
You want your dogs to sleep?
Yeah, I want my dogs to sleep, basically. That was the whole purpose of why I got into it, too, was my dog. I knew the Border Collie had to have a job, and this is a good way to keep him focused. And I get some exercise in it too, so it's good both ways.
Obesity is definitely a growing problem in dogs, but there's no set weight. Obviously, it's controlled by breed and age and sex and even activity level. So the best thing to do is really look at the dog's body condition or the level of fat versus their total weight. So regardless of the breed, they should have an hourglass shape, and when you feel the fat pad over top the ribs, it should be very easy to feel those ribs. You shouldn't have to push in really firm to actually feel the ribs. And if you have that, then your dog has a perfect body condition.
What is it that has attracted you to staying in this sport? Because, I mean, you started it to get the Border Collie
Just
tired,
fun.
right? But,
yeah.
I mean,
I like the people. Like I like that is, well, first of all, I like it's just me and my dog in the ring. So, because my first dog was a very reactive dog. He wasn't one, we tried everything, but he's just not a dog's dog. And it took an instructor to say, you know what? It's like people. Some people don't like other people. Well, some dogs aren't going to like other dogs. And it's just a connection. I don't have to worry about other dogs. He's having fun. He wants to work. It kind of uses my brain to make sure I know what the plan is, where I'm going. Yeah, it's just good camaraderie. We get to hang out here, and everybody has the same interest. And the thing is like everybody wants the dogs to do well. You get people cheering each other on outside the ring, and they respect when things go well, and then you kind of shake it off when they don't, because sometimes it doesn't, you know. So, and the dogs don't know they're making mistakes, right? Like, well, they're like, they come out.
It doesn't always go perfectly, does it?
No, sometimes it can be a train wreck, depending on, you know, and you don't know. Ideally, if you know what you're doing in your dog, sometimes it can go beautifully. They're still dogs.
I don't care if it's a rescue from a well-intentioned breeder who's done all their work on the back end of things. You can still end up with a dog with a quirky personality that I hope you have a sense of humor to deal with it, because world peace is not in the balance here. You're just out to have a good time with your dog and hang out with your friends. It's all good.
They might not be solving world peace, but anyone involved in dog agility sports will tell you the excitement and fun of the sport is infectious.
For me, it's the speed. You're running as fast as you can, as fast as your dog can around the course. It's very intense when you're out there. For me, I've played multiple sports. I've played disc, I've done a little bit of rally obedience, some freestyle, and the high that I get off of agility is unlike any other. The connection is so strong to be able to drive a dog around a course and get them to do all the obstacles with accuracy and speed. This past weekend, my oldest dog was running between 15 and 20 feet per second around the course. So to get her controlled while going that fast and still doing all the obstacles, it's a real thrill. And for me, it's the connection. I think you get a lot of nice connection in any dog sport, but again, to have that level of connection where the dog knows where you want them to go, what you want them to do, in just tenths of seconds they have to make decisions. It's just an absolute thrill.
There we go.
So, as long as you like being competitive, but being loving and generous to your dog and patient with your dog, agility will teach you a lot of patience too if you let it. So it does open the doors for a lot of learning opportunities about life in general.
Now I take it for granted I've been doing it so long, not that it goes perfectly, but accepting that sometimes what you think your plan's going to be, the dog may see something differently, or there just could be that little something that as a human. And it's always kind of accepting that usually it's your fault, the human's fault. Sometimes the dogs are naughty. Sometimes the dogs are naughty, but if you haven't been consistent or something, usually we always take the blame.
You really enjoyed the summer.
I did. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I still, I wouldn't say that I'm the most seriously taking it. It's worked out, and the community, the agility community has been amazing. Or even if something happens outside of the world of agility, they rally, they come together. There's just a good connection, and just to be able to meet people across Canada, across the world, that I'm like, I would never have met those people in my life, personal friends that, we hang out. But if it hadn't been for our dogs keeping us together or bringing us together to begin with, then it's like, it all started with one dog.
Visit us online to tell us your dog stories for possible inclusion in future episodes. And don't forget to share photos of your canine friends on social media with the hashtag NSK9.
When I first started, I had a competitor. She was getting all these ribbons and she was retiring, and I was like, God, I want to be like that, right? And she said, no, you don't. I want to be where you are. I want to be where you first started.
Just having fun.
Yeah, and I think it's an absolute gift that, because I have my dog that's not competing anymore because he's retired, and I look at the new one starting, and I'm like, I'd love to be back there, right? And I have a new dog running now, so there's always another dog, and I'm really grateful for that.
Memories are important, from photographs to paintings. So next time on NSK9, we find out about the artistic ways people are remembering their pets as they grow older.
I feel like a past version of myself would have been doubting, but I don't know.
This makes you happy.
It does, and I feel like it's definitely what I'm supposed to be doing. So there isn't any room for it's not going to work, or maybe nobody wants this. Because every time I get another great client who absolutely loves their work and just, you know, is thrilled about everything. I'm like, okay, there's another person, there's another one. And if I ever have a bad day, I'm like, no, these people really love what I'm doing and I'm doing something important. And so it's good.
Because it is important to these people, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. Because I mean, like Kim was saying, you have maybe 15 years if you get really lucky. So it's really important to just spend every moment that you can, like celebrating the life that you've built with your dog.